What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be talking about the Winnipeg Jets versus the Dallas Stars round 2 matchup on Wednesday night. It's going to be an exciting one, both teams coming off pretty dramatic ends to their first round in 7 games each team, so lots to look forward to. I think this is going to be a really fun series. Just like in round 1, I'm going to be talking about both teams, going in depth on their lineup, their players, and how I think this series could go. So without further ado, let's get into this one. We're going to start off with the Winnipeg Jets, who are coming off maybe the most exciting game in franchise history. Down 3-1 to the St. Louis Blues in Game 7 at home with just over 3 minutes left. The Jets make it 3-2 with under 2 minutes, and with 1.6 seconds left on the clock, Cole Perfetti tipping it home to tie it, and then Adam Lowry in double overtime tipping it home once again to win the game, to win the series, and send the Jets to the second round. That was a wild first round matchup. The vibes are high, but there are a lot of stuff that the Jets have to worry about here. First of all, they're playing the 8th seed Blues, and the Blues were no slouch whatsoever. Big, hard, physical team that played really well. But I think a lot of the damage here was self-inflicted by Winnipeg, right? It felt like every time that, they lost a lead on the road or anything like that, or let in a bad goal, the entire team started just depleting in front of Connor Hellebuyck. And, Hellebuyck has to be good too, right? He's let in, some pretty weak ones so far in the playoffs. However, he looked more like himself in Game 7. He looked way better. And I'm really hoping that that can continue on to the next round, because if the Jets can get their X factor back, that really changes the complexion of this team big time. So if the Jets could get their, Vezina winning Hart Trophy candidate goaltender back into form, that would go a long way. But if we look at the lineup here, you notice a lot of holes, and you're like, hey, why is that guy playing number 1 center? Hey, why is that guy, on the top pairing, defense pairing? Why is that guy even playing? It's because the Winnipeg Jets have some injuries right now, and some pretty important ones. As Mark Scheifele is out of the lineup, he is considered day-to-day and a game-time decision for Wednesday for Game 1. I am pretty confident that he's going to be in Game 1 or Game 2 at least. Suffered an injury against the St. Louis Blues in Game 6, left early on. Josh Morrissey, same kind of deal, just in Game 7. Did not return for Game 7. I thought it was going to be more sinister than it was, but he's out there skating, albeit in a non-contact jersey, and he looked like he was moving okay. It seems like an upper body injury for Josh, seems like an upper body injury for Mark Scheifele, but if the Jets can get these guys back for Game 1 or Game 2, I think that would be huge. I think Scheifele is probably just a tad closer than Morrissey, just reading the tea leaves. But one thing I want to point out is, yes, this Jets team is pretty depleted at this current moment. I do think they'll be getting their, some of their best players back very soon. However, it was pretty cool to see a team playing with 5 defensemen as Josh Morrissey left after only playing 2 minutes of the game in Game 7. 5 defensemen. Number 1 center was Vlad Nemesnikov, and they were still able to pull out that win against St. Louis. They were still able to clutch up. They, held their structure. They looked really good. Played some of the best hockey they've played all season. You had guys stepping up like Neil Pionk playing 46 minutes and didn't even look tired after the game. Are you kidding me? Hyping up the crowd. He looked really good. Hayden Fleury stepped up big time for Josh Morrissey. Vlad Nemesnikov stepping up into the 1C role over the last few games here. He's looked really good. Couple clutch goals from him. And, it's just next man up mentality for Winnipeg, and that's the way it's going to have to be if, Mark Scheifele and Josh Morrissey can't go. They're going to be relying on Connor Hellebuyck to be better, relying on their depth to step up once again. But it will be tougher against the Dallas Stars. I do think they're one of the better teams in the NHL remaining here. Now, I talked about the Jets' dramatic Game 7. The Stars, the day before that, had their own dramatic Game 7, where they were down 2-0 to the Colorado Avalanche in the 3rd period with under 10 to go. They come back, and guess who was leading the charge? The guy that scored the first goal of the comeback and the second goal of the comeback was Mikko Rantanen, who was traded away from the Colorado Avalanche to the Carolina Hurricanes, and then traded eventually at the trade deadline and signed long-term to the Dallas Stars. He comes back to haunt his old team, scores 2 goals. Wyatt Johnston scores the eventual winner anyway late in the game, and Mikko Rantanen finishes it off with a hat trick on home ice to haunt the Colorado Avalanche and send them packing. It was very cool to see, great storyline, and I'm really happy for Rantanen. Now, I was a little bit surprised to see Dallas come out of this series, as at the beginning, I had Colorado winning in 6 games. Just thought Nathan MacKinnon and Cale Makar might be a little bit too much for Dallas. But alas, Dallas was able to step up to the challenge, and they were very good. And they won this series without Miro Heiskanen, their number 1 defenseman, and maybe their best scorer, Jason Robertson. So hats off to them. It looks like they're going to be getting these players back sooner than later. Jason Robertson could be playing game 1. We'll talk about the lineup in just a minute here. But yeah, if they're able to get even more reinforcements going forward, the Jets are going to have their hands full. So, if we look at the forward lines for Dallas, it's pretty daunting. Assuming Jason Robertson is back with Wyatt Johnston and Mason Marchment, I mean, this has to be one of the most stacked forward groups of all time, right? Like, look at that first line there, Hintz, Rantanen, and Granlund. The second line of Jamie Benn, Matt Duchene, and Tyler Seguin. He's back from injury. He's played well in the first round. Jason Robertson, Wyatt Johnston, Mason Marchment is your third line. And then your fourth line is Oscar Back, Sam Steele, and Evgeny Dadonov. Come on, man. Really? Like, this is a crazy forward core for Dallas. This is going to be a huge handful for Winnipeg. But yeah, the forward core is extremely impressive. And, Dallas has a ton of stars on this team. No pun intended. But if we take a look over at the defense, this is where I think the Jets can maybe exploit the Stars a little bit on that right side. Now, you will be getting Heiskanen back, and that'll bump everybody down on the left here. But, Ilya Lyubushkin, Cody Ceci, and Alex Petrovic on that right side. Maybe Heiskanen comes in and he plays on the right and bumps one of those guys out. But still, even if you have, 2 of these guys in the lineup, I think the Jets, their game plan needs to be to exploit them. Ilya Lyubushkin had some really rough games. He was a -5 in Game 6 for Dallas. Come on, guys. Like, the Jets have to be keying on that guy. They have to be exploiting that weakness for Dallas, because this is a team that doesn't have a lot of them. But on the back end, that right side, it's something that I think the Jets can, maybe key on a little bit. It's not to say Dallas doesn't have some very good players here. Obviously, Thomas Harley has been a monster in the playoffs so far, a monster this year. Over there on the Team Canada at 4 Nations, he was fantastic. And, getting Heiskanen back would be massive for them, right? He hasn't played in a little while. Big injury, lower body, but I think he's going to be ready to go here. We'll see as more news comes out. He was listed as day-to-day, as was Jason Robertson, so we may see him for Game 1, but we won't know until later on. But I think we will be seeing him again earlier on than later. So I've given the rundown here on both teams. I think this is going to be a very fun series. Both teams, love the dramatics, both coming back to win Game 7. Without those comebacks in Game 7, we'd be seeing, the Blues versus the Avalanche. Instead, we get the Jets versus the Stars, 2 very driven teams. Jets built on structure, next man up mentality, getting their stars back hopefully soon here. And the Dallas Stars, who are just absolutely loaded but have a couple of holes on their back end. Is Winnipeg going to be able to stop the Stars' power play? Right, they had a little bit of trouble with the Blues. That power play with Mikko Rantanen and Wyatt Johnston on both sides there, that is a big handful. And we're going to have to see if the Jets are able to, carry the load here, if they're able to, just endure the Dallas attack, because Dallas is going to be attacking. We'll see if Winnipeg's able to handle it. I think that's the biggest question mark in this series. Is Connor Hellebuyck able to handle it? If Josh Morrissey misses a couple of games, is that D-Corps going to be able to play as well as they played in Game 7 against the Blues, right? I do think that this Jets team has proven that they can stand up to adversity, they can stand up to a challenge, and that's something that I expect to see this series. But if they play any of the games like they did on the road against St. Louis, where they implode in front of Connor Hellebuyck and Connor Hellebuyck implodes, the Jets will be done extremely early in this series. This is not the St. Louis Blues, this is the Dallas Stars, and the Jets are going to have to really lock up and be in that Game 7 form every single game against this Dallas Stars team, because this might as well be a Stanley Cup final, between two teams. This is a Stanley Cup champion caliber team the Jets are playing. It is not the St. Louis Blues. Now, I'm going to take the Winnipeg Jets to win this series for a couple of reasons, okay? I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me, but I have the Jets winning because, they fought the Dallas Stars off all season long, and the Stars had a couple of chances to, get back up into the number 1 spot in the Central, take it away from the Winnipeg Jets. They had a couple of chances to do it. And on March 14th, the Winnipeg Jets smacked the Dallas Stars. It was one of the best games they played all season. Later on in the year, Dallas, again, was only a few points back of Winnipeg, had a chance to really get back into, contending for that Central Division, had a chance to take it away, and the Jets came away with a 4-0 shutout. When the Jets have had to play big games against the Dallas Stars, they have come through. And, I know Dallas has kind of figured out their game over the last couple of weeks. They've, entered playoff mode, but so have the Winnipeg Jets. And, if they're able to play the way they played in Game 7, I think they got a good shot here. So, we'll see what happens. This is going to be a very fun series, but I want to know what you guys have to say. Leave a comment down below. Who's winning this series? Who do you got? Jets or Stars? Leave it all down below. But thank you guys so much for watching as always. Leave a like. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Go Jets go. Bye-bye.